Brenda.
Thank you. Let's see. I know there's this to put on. Testing. Okay. And there's some feedback with the other one. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to come today and
It's off.
okay.
That one's off, so I don't know.
It's off?
So far, no, this is this.
Huh,
Let me see with that, if I'm okay without it.
sure it's off?
I really don't want to hold it.
No.
Yeah. Thanks. I think we're okay. Now, right? Good.
Good.
Yeah.
First of all,
You should,
no.
this one, it's this one, I think it's the problem, is the mic.
Let's see, turn it off.
So this is family, right?
Yes.
We can tell. This is a family situation. This is a family setting. The love that we generate in our community here is true and always present. So thank you so much for the music, for the readings from the text, from the introduction.
No,
Thank
it's
you.
off.
It's not that mic.
It's off.
It's the headset.
It's the headset.
I'll put it off to the side.
Good.
That's good. So, I appreciate.
Sorry, Brenda.
That's okay. I appreciate being asked to share a few words today, and as I said, I'm talking about the difference of the choice, the conscious choice of creating a space of safe as opposed to coming from a place of fear. Tara Brach, who many of you know is a teacher of meditation and peace studies, often shares a joke where someone comes to her seeking assistance and they want to be a better person. And they tell Tara, you know, I want to be happy, I want to be joyful, I want to be more present, I want to be glad all the time, I want to be grateful and in a space of happiness. I want to see the good in everyone. I want to show up and be the best possible. And her response says, well, it doesn't sound so much that you want to be a better person as it is you want to be a better dog. That's what we experience from our pets, from a dog. Always happy, always seeing the best in us, always showing up and presenting love. Her point is that one-sided goals are impossible to reach, much less maintain, especially when we sincerely want to meet life moment by moment, in our fullest potential, in our truest form. And yet we often settle for something less than our best, such as wanting to be liked, wanting to be wanted, or some other reflection of expectation to fulfill an expectation from the outer world, fulfilling an inner need. So this quest for being included, of being not left out, of being pleasant and people-pleasing may seem as a good goal, as an improvement, yet the inward result often leads to disappointment and continued result of lack. Carl Jung reminds us if we ignore what we've learned to repress, such as unwanted feelings of not being enough, abandonment, sadness, anger, what is repressed will make itself known to us as fate, and often in the most inopportune moment. So here we can deal with life either consciously, where we're developing an ongoing, mutable relationship with patterns that we rely on, that appear to manage, to control, and to create security, or the unconscious will make itself known at the most inconvenient time. In other words, what we resist persists. What we resist persists until something unplanned happens, the inevitable. And we learn that the skills we have no longer help us achieve our perceived security. Again, a sense of lack or struggle of disappointment continues to visit us. Ernest Holmes says, there's a radio. This is great. Family, right? This is the dinner table. So Ernest Holmes, our own Ernest Holmes, which I have been practicing with him since 1994, he says, "We have within us a power that is greater than anything we ever shall contact in the outer world. A power that can overcome every obstacle in our life and set us free. It can satisfy us, it can give us peace, it can heal us, and we can be prosperous in a new light with a new life." He says, "Where the mind goes, energy flows, and life externalizes at the level of our thought." Here, Holmes makes it possible for us to proclaim a life of peace, of satisfaction, health, and prosperity. But this potential is a power from within and is not found in the outer world. His term of "set us safe," as he mentioned in the quote, "set us safe," is a theme of my message today. Earlier this year, I was part of an online class of 400 therapists, counselors, educators, doctors, healers, looking at ways to reduce trauma in the body. And in the very beginning of the session, we were asked if we actually felt safe. Did we feel safe? Right then and there. Within a minute, the electronic poll on the computer showed that 100% of us did not feel safe.
Wow.
100%. And we were from all over the world. It didn't matter if we didn't feel safe in a relationship or in professional life or financial, health, environment, politics. It just didn't matter. None of us felt safe. And we paused at how this might show up in our work and how it works as we continue to apply attention to our own self-worth, to our own healing. What does it mean to not feel safe? So I ask the question to you. Do you feel safe? What does this mean for you right now in your body, in your heart and soul? The next question that came was a game changer for me. It was, if you don't feel safe now, but if you could feel safe, how would you live your life? What would be different? What would you do, say, feel, explore, experience? Where would you go? Basically, who would you be in the world? What is the difference? And again, I pose the question to you today as well. If you felt 100% safe, what would be different in your life? Don't second guess your inner voice. Trust what first comes to you. Don't judge it. Let it be heard and welcome the thought. Part of our conversation that day included looking at the opposite of feeling safe. While there were constellations of various opposites of not feeling safe, most of us agreed that what we were looking at was ultimately fear. And as all of us had differing definitions of what was safe, we also had various definitions of what was fear. So to create a common understanding of the two landscapes of safe and fear, we turned to the literature for a simple agreement based on the neurobiological chemical differences experienced in the body, our temple, where we live, the housing unit, our container. This is predictable biochemical reality that distinguishes, describes, and identifies the two worlds of safe and fear. In a very simplistic, reduced form, when the body is in fear, the chemistry of being scared means there is a chronic alert and an anticipation for harm. Glutamate, a neurotransmitter, travels to the hypothalamus and triggers the autonomic nervous system, a response we cannot control. Adrenaline, cortisol, neuroepinephrine flood the body. The amygdala gets activated, and normal baseline responses no longer are in place. The amygdala, this little almond-shaped part in the center of our brain, governs function such as sleep, appetite, sensory processing, motor activity, cognitions, and emotions such as anxiety-related personality traits. So when we're stimulated in fear, everything that I just mentioned becomes dysregulated. From sleep to how we digest our food, to our emotions, to how our body functions, to how we relate not only to ourselves but out in the world. How much this hypervigilance can become normalized means that we get used to it. Depending on the levels, intensity, duration, and saturation on how much fear is present and for how long. When we normalize fear, we don't realize how much real estate fear occupies. When the body isn't safe, the chemistry of being in homeostasis, neurotransmitters, the brain's chemical messengers, create a system of safety and security. When we feel safe, the brain releases neurochemicals associated with well-being, such as dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, the love chemical. These substances contribute to feelings of happiness, contentment, further reinforcing sensory of security. So there's an actual sensation of security. When we consistently cultivate feelings of safety and security, our brains form new neural pathways. They become bridges. They become building blocks of how we live every single day. Feeling safe and secure plays a pivotal role in achieving a harmonious balance between brain regions. When we experience a sense of safety, the prefrontal cortex can maintain greater control over the amygdala's vigilance. So all that area that the amygdala controls and influences becomes much more stable, less heightened, less chaotic, less anxious. We can focus, we can achieve, we can have that sense of self, that connection with spirit. So even with this small amount of simplified information that I've presented, you can see the wide spectrum of the variances a person will experience. These experiences can be consciously nurtured or ignored. In other words, we do contain the possibility of how we make choices and contribute to the construction of the actual fabric of our choices. Think of the difference between making a decision when cognitive functions are impaired or when anxiety is absent. As trauma specialists, we already had a strong understanding of how the body reflects and embodies lifelong unaddressed feelings, all of those points and moments of life that we said, no, I'm not going there. They can wait for me later. Okay, we understand that. But yet reframing this complex system into if you could feel safe, if you can feel safe, if you can generate the place of getting to feeling safe, how would you live your life? Opened up a simple approach that can demystify the process of personal healing. So with this basic background, how can we set us safe as per Ernest Holmes? So we start with two modalities. So we talked about how we can get here, we talk about the differences, but if we choose to actually investigate and play with activating set us safe as per Ernest Holmes, what do we do? How can we start this? And there's two modalities. They're simple, but they are also complex. The first one is deep breath work. We had some breathing in our practice earlier today. As you were saying, breathing in the God Spirit, and having as the breath is our connection to Spirit. The breath is our spirit. We are spirit in breath. One resistance, the first one is breath work, of consciously putting our attention on our breathing. And I know as soon as I say breath work, there is an immediate automatic resistance many people have to the suggestion. It's just a natural reflection that I get all the time. Oh yeah, breath work. I've learned, and I've surveyed people. I've learned like what are the reasons, and there's two. I'm sure there's many more, but the two top are: one resistance is the fact that we already breathe, and look at the mess we're in. Our breath is present with all our pathologies and all of our issues and anxiety. So why turn to breath? Breathing has contributed, maybe even allowed us to get this screwed up and unhealthy. But I believe most of us know we don't breathe for life. We breathe so we don't die, which means we breathe in very minimum basic form of breath work. It is shallow, it is chest-driven, and unconscious. When we breathe for life, there is a conscious partnership with the body to breathe deeply into the belly, and then to consciously exhale through the mouth with intention and visualization. Incorporating breath work throughout the day is a direct remedy to mitigate fear and to reinstall safe. Conscious breathing is the key, the tool to keeping us present, but the present moment, we don't think. So when we're breathing, when we're consciously breathing, we're staying present. And when we're present, we're not in the ego consciousness of the intellect. We're not thinking. And so the second resistance to breathing is when I'm sitting, breathing, and I'm consciously in the moment, staying present, coming back to source. All of a sudden, and I'm not breathing, I'm not allowing the ego to run the show. All of a sudden, feelings come up. And the feelings that have been repressed, but the feelings come up and say, oh, she's present. She's not thinking. I'm not being shut out. I can come forward. So when we're present and we're breathing and we're consciously staying in spirit and feelings come up, many people say, nope, I don't want to go there. And they go back into intellect. Mm-hmm. And we stop breathing. We start shallow breathing. Start maintaining the old pattern of, nope, I don't want to go there. So the two resistance of, I already breathe, it hasn't helped me so far. And when I do consciously breathe, oh my God, I get flooded with something that I've tried for years to ignore. So the feelings have become repressed. When the feelings surface, chances are you immediately go into thinking and intellectualizing, and the goal is to stay with the feeling, to breathe. So this is an important key. The goal is to stay with the breathing, to allow the feelings to come and then breathe underneath what's underneath. And the feelings will come, they will disappear, they will dissipate, and you're left with your breathing. And there is a sense of, I'm safe. I didn't die. So you start building up this repertoire of, I can do this. This works. So the first step of feeling safe is this conscious breathing. And I cannot impress upon you the value of conscious breathing in all parts of your life. Pain management, relationships, what's going on in the world, deep breathing, staying present. And there's many types of breath work. I'm not here to teach you one particular way. but there's many, many practitioners that have been teaching breathing for years. So whatever one your body resonates with, as well as changing it up and moving different types of practices. So the second modality of learning to set us safe is what Jung calls active imagination, and it's dealing with the unconscious. And so from a quick review of Jungian work is you have the conscious ego that runs it every single day. Every day that you've lived, you've had an operating system of the conscious ego. It keeps us safe. Everything that has not come through, everything, all of our dreams, desires, everything that we are allowing our future to evolve from is in the unconscious. And our imagination is part of the unconscious. So an active imagination, I'll give you an example. When I was at Unity Home, there was an amazing 3-year journey. I was the main clinician and dealt with everything. One of the factors, one of the pathologies that many clients would bring in was a propensity and a habit for cutting. They would cut. And they would cut for a very long time. I mean, it wasn't just a sense of dire chaos, I have to cut for relief. They had a long life pattern of cutting. And often they would cut in the safe house, and they would have children. And instead of me helping deal with abandonment and betrayal, I would be sitting there wrapping their wrists. And we didn't want to go to the hospital because that would activate child protection services, and that's a whole other path of a mother losing their child after they've left an abusive relationship. So I decided to, here I was in a very behavioral, cognitive center treatment home as a Jungian, dealing with dreams and myths and images. And I sat and I said, okay, this is going to work. This is my calling in unifying Jungian work with domestic violence. And there were several women throughout the 3 years that sat with me, and I interviewed them and worked with them, and I said, okay, you cut. I'm not here to tell you not to cut, but I want to know why you cut. I want to know the process. I want to know what you get out of this. I want to know what the process is. I want to know what you feel. And everyone would close their eyes and they would go, oh. It's not the act of cutting, it's the process of knowing my blood is leaving me. There's a warmth. There's a sense of relief. There's a sense of love. And as Gabor Mate, a doctor that I studied with, said, yeah, there's a sense of the brain releases oxytocin. It's the mother drug. It's the mother neurotransmitter. When you give birth, your body releases oxytocin, and it's the love bond. When you have an orgasm, you have oxytocin in your body. When you cut, apparently, you have oxytocin in your body too. Mm-hmm. It's relief. It's a place of, I don't care what it takes to get here, but I'm going. So, being trained in active imagination, I said, okay, so let's go there. Close your eyes, go back to that moment, go back to maybe the first time you cut, the last time you cut, whatever it is. I want you to go back to when you're having that moment of peace and love and oxytocin and relief. And I want you to find it. Everyone found it immediately, like within seconds. And so we located in the body this feeling of peace, not the cut. It's like, where in your body do you hold this? Where does it rest? Where does it reside right now? And then amplify it and breathing into it. And eventually every single molecule and pore in her body was having this memory experience in present time. Coming out of that visualization, I would say, well, how are you feeling? Like, how was that? And this was better than cutting. So over the 3 years, I worked with a couple of hundred women to move them from cutting to not cutting, but moving them from the search and the quest for that moment of peace and connection. One said, this is why I was born. This divine feeling is only achieved through this action. To then being able to have them sit at a breakfast table and go through this meditation and achieve the same results under their own jurisdiction, under their own tutelage, under their own choice. So they chose safe. They chose how to get what they need without doing the abusive behavior. And you can do the same. I'm not suggesting that you cut, but I am saying, I want you just right quickly, just close your eyes and remember a time that you felt safe, totally safe. It could be in the arms of your parents or your loved ones or your child. It could be in nature. It could be climbing into bed and having a wonderful sleep. It could be this place of prayer, connection with spirit. Doesn't matter. You don't need words for it, but I want you to feel it in your body. This is a place of your complete 100% safe. And I want you to see where it lives in your body right now, where it's come to visit you in the body. And I want you to say thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming so quickly. And you treat this vision as if it's your most precious guest ever. And you tell it, thank you. Thank you for being here. What advice do you have for me? How can I serve you? This develops a relationship and a conversation with your place of safe. And know that you can always come back here in a heartbeat. So this is your ally. This is a place of active imagination, allowing you to embody what Ernest Holmes calls set us safe. The sense of inner place of pure potentiality, of pure health, of pure purpose and alignment. If you could feel safe first, how would you be in the world? It's also my experience that the rational ego will step in right now, the part who's the manager, and says something along the lines that this is all fine, but I have a way that we've been working for several decades. We will make a list, we'll identify what has to happen first, and then second, and then third, and then fourth. And we'll just go through the list. We don't have to deviate. We're going to use our old patterning. But again, I ask you, if you could feel safe first, how would you be in the world? Would you have a different list? Would you even have a list? Remember Ernest Holmes' words, where the mind goes, energy flows. We have within us a power that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer world. A power that can overcome every obstacle in our life and set us free. It can satisfy us and give us peace. We can be healed and prosperous. In a new light, in a new life. A closing poem from Cahill Gibran I'd like to share with you. It was a last minute email from my friend Kim Bennett in Montana, and it was a perfect way to leave you with a poem and a blessing. The river cannot go back. It is said that before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has traveled, from the peaks of the mountains, the long, winding road crossing forests and villages. And in front of her, she sees an ocean so vast that to enter there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there is no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean, because only then will fear disappear. Because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean. Okay, and with that, I will leave you in a space of choosing safe over fear. And when you do enter fear, when you recognize that fear is here to visit, welcome it and say, I'm going back into my chamber where I visited safe, and have safe start running the show. You always have that choice. And that moment where the decision comes is where you breathe. That deep conscious breathing gives you the space to disengage, to go into neutral, breathe. You're facing fear. Oh yes, fear has come to visit. But you're going inside, calling your ally, and letting safe actually be present and make the decisions for you. And with that, so it is.